Welcome to Plentiful Gardens. Today I'm just gonna go over how I made a wooden ceiling starting box. This came out of the book called How to Grow More Vegetables by John Javons, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. In this book, they do show how to build the wooden seed starting boxes. And if you go to page 62 and 63, they show you the one that we'll be making today, 23 inches by 14 inches and 3 inches deep. The first step that I did was I went to the hardware store and I got the wood. I got some redwood picket fence wood that was not treated. I got about 3 or 4 planks, and these are the tools that I use. I use drill, hammer, a right angle, and some clamps. I do have to say I'm not an expert in woodworking. I did make sure to use wood screws, and these are the ones that I use for the project. First thing that I did was I went ahead and I measured the plank every 14.5 inches, and I just did 14.5 just to give myself wiggle room for when cutting or any mistakes. So the next marking was at 29 inches and then at 43.5 inches. And after marking it, I went ahead and labeled it at the top and bottom just to keep track which side of the box I'm working with. I used the right angle just to mark where I was going to be making the cuts. You can use a saw to make the cuts, although that would take a very long time. There's some hardware stores that will cut it for you if you tell them where to make the cuts. I find that to be super helpful. And this is the 23.5 planks that I marked as well at the top and bottom where I was going to make each cut. Once I marked where to make each cut, I went ahead and just started cutting them. When using tools, please make sure to use goggles for safety. And then I just went and cut each for the width of the box, which is 14.5 inches. From one plank, I got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Then I got the plank that was marked at 23.5, and I started cutting those. I did find that you don't need to be super close to the line. These boxes are pretty forgiving when putting them together. And in one of the planks, I found that there were plastic staples in the back. So you want to make sure to remove those before making any cuts, just for safety. So for that, I took a tool just to pry it out. And from the plank that was marked at 23.5, so I got 3 planks and a little bit left over. Once I'd cut all the planks, then I went ahead and marked each plank at the width of 3 inches. So technically the plank should be 6 inches wide, but they're not, because they're not exact. So I just took a ruler and marked that at 3 inches because that's gonna make each box 3 inches deep. So from one plank, I'm cutting it right down the middle. The other one is just about 2.5 inches. That's okay, it's just not gonna be as deep as the other one. And I did this for the 14.5 and 23.5 planks. Then I used this tool to cut each plank at the 3 inches mark. Now, once I had all the pieces cut, I just went ahead and started assembling together. Oh, I did forget to tell you that I used some 2 by 4 inches block just so I could drill the screws in to hold the pieces together. And some of the blocks were taller than what needed to be, so I just went ahead and cut the extra pieces. Then first I did a drill hole first. And again, these are the screws I'm using. I'm just checking here if the screws are long enough to go through the bore and the wooden block that holds it together. And then I just slowly started screwing in the screw. Then I just went over to the other side and then just screwed in the bottom as well. Once those two were in place, I could just take the clamps off and put the other two screws. Then I just went ahead and repeated the same process for each of the corners. When putting on the screws, I would just make sure to go slow, because if you go too fast, I found that it was just harder for me to have control over it. Now, once all the corners were put together, this is how the box looks. Then I just went ahead and started measuring the bottom. So I just took a plank, put it against the bottom. Then I just marked it where it needed to be cut. I repeated the process for all the planks at the bottom. For the last one, I just used one of the extras 23 inches long pieces that was cut at the 3 inches wide, and that fit it perfectly. Then I just started putting in the screws. I did have a hard time putting in the screws because I didn't have enough space. So again, you just have to do it very, very slowly and make sure that you're grabbing on to the edge of the box. And if for some reason one of the screws don't go in, that's okay. You can just redo it again. Some of the screws I did it way too close to the edge, so that's why they would crack. But I was okay with that. And then I just repeated the process for the other side of the box. I put in about 2 screws per plank. Once I had put in all the screws, I just turn it around just to make sure they're okay. I did find that some screws were poking out into the box, so I just went ahead and removed those and reset them. I also put in extra screws to attach to the blocks on the corner. Once everything was assembled, this is how it looks. It's pretty sturdy and I was pretty happy with it. Oh, I did forget to mention to show that I did a quick sanding of the box just to get rid of the splinters. This is the bottom and there's some spaces there, but that's okay. It's gonna allow the water to go through after you water your plants. So that's actually pretty good. And these are the other boxes I made. I made a smaller box that is 14.5 inches by 11.5 inches. Then the last step I did was to measure the box's weight. Each box, the medium and the small, each of them was 5.4 pounds. So when they're just empty, I wanted to see how much they weigh with the soil on. So I prepared some soil by getting it wet, and then I put it into the box. So the small box is 13.6 pounds and the larger box is 25.4 pounds. Once you have your box assembled, you can use this box for many years and seasons to come. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.